Chapter 7 also stipulates the offences and penalties. You will see that later on we'll touch on the exact amount, but I think the big focus here is that if you're found guilty, you can be held criminally liable. So you can be found guilty of a criminal offence. So you've got a criminal record, and you can also receive an imprisonment of maximum 10 years, or both of them. So and the amounts for these penalties is embedded in the National Environmental Management Act. There's some examples of typically when somebody will be guilty of an offence. You can see there, you can read for yourself. This is the penalties that's been prescribed in the National Environmental Management Act. Quite serious. I mean, possibility of a 10 million fine for the second offence, and then also a maximum of 10 years imprisonment. So it's quite harsh, quite serious. There's a good direction on if a person or a facility operated listed activity in a priority area and is non-compliant. You can actually see there, what the calculation will be. This in Chapter 8, Part 1, it just gives a list of some examples of where the minister may or must make regulations. You'll see a lot of them I think we touched on, but it just gives the powers to the minister to make specific regulations. We operate and live in a democratic dispensation, and therefore it is important that, like with other legislation as well, as soon as you want to make changes or promulgate regulations that will affect individuals or communities, you need to follow a consultation process, and the consultation process is also explained in Section 57 of the Equality Act, and you can read through this. It's quite common sense of what the minister must do, or the MEC at provincial level. Another example of the public participation process, just to also mention that this is very important for you to understand. This slides, the Chapter 8, the previous slide and this slide, and the slide that follow this one, to fully understand the consultative process embedded in public participation in terms of the Equality Act. Some examples in the Equality Act where public participation is compulsory. For instance, if the minister want to promulgate the national framework, provincial standards, priority areas, priority equality management plans, addition or removal of listed activities, declaration of controlled emitters, promulgation of regulations, and then the municipalities also need to go through a process of public participation when they want to pass bylaws, and that includes the if you want to promulgate or amend equality management bylaws at the municipal level. This slide is not really part of the legislation, again a summary, just to give you a good idea of the roles and responsibilities of national government. From this you will see it's mainly an oversight, to oversee, not oversight, to oversee equality management in the Republic of South Africa, and then to also deal with issues of national interest like emission standards, listed activities, national ambient equality standards, national equality officer, etc. some more responsibilities of national government, so you can page through these. Responsibilities related to regulation, and then the delegation of duties and exemptions. Even if you want to exempt, you need to go through a public participation process. A good example will be if the minister wants to exempt, for instance, the industry from certain emission standards, the minister is supposed to go through a public participation process. Provincial government responsibilities are also very clear. Basically facilitate the facilitator between national and provincial. You can read through these in your own time. Same applies to this. Also roles and responsibilities of provincial governments. Then local government, also specific responsibilities regarding the promulgation of ambient equality bylaws, emission standard bylaws, but that happened. The appointment of a municipal equality officer, that's compulsory. Equality management plans, they operate or manage the licensing system, and then also the enforcement part is also their responsibility. Then some directive to industry on what they can implement to make the process smooth. And that brings us to the end of this presentation, quite a long presentation, but because of the fact that you will, most probability, as part of your scope of practice, also be in a position to enforce the Equality Act, it is very important that you understand a good understanding of the contents and the applicability of the National Environmental Management Act. Thank you for your time reviewing this sound PowerPoint presentation, and I hope you found the presentation informative. Goodbye.